everybody. How are you today? I hope you're well. I hope January is going well for you. Welcome back. My name is Stephanie and I am the Everyday Sewist. And if you're new here, I appreciate you taking a look and seeing what I've been working on. So let's get started. Behind me, I have a quilt that my friend Sonia made. And I just wanted to share it before I got it back to her family because it's just such a glorious red and white quilt. And as we are almost into February, I thought it would be a really beautiful one to share. So I did not make the top. I just did the quilting on this one. And I used a pattern called Fantasia. Which is a beautiful feather design, and I think it complements the top really well. I'll show you the backing. The backing is a little bit of a surprise, but I know that she would love it. So this is a K-facet jumbo pattern design, and I think it's going to just be beautiful. And this will go back to her family, and it's another one that my friend Jane and I have been working on to finish for her. So that is my display quilt behind me, and just wanted to share that with you. I have just one new finish so far this month in January. I'm taping this in the middle of the month, and so I still have a few more days that I could possibly finish some of my whips, but the only one that I've really truly finished right now is my temperature quilt. So let me put that one up behind me and give you a look at that one, because that'll be probably the last time that I show this. I know I've showed this over the last several episodes. I bring it out once in a while, but this is it. This is the final reveal of my temperature quilt for 2025. This is my 2025 temperature quilt, and it starts up here with January, and each column is another month of the year. You can see that we get pretty hot weather in the summertime, not too many cold temperatures. I have a couple of special blocks. This one is from April, where a tornado went through, and so I put a little extra corner triangle on that one in order to remember that day. And I still have yet to put in a little bit of embroidery, hand embroidery for the day of the first snow. And I thought that would be kind of a nice addition. I changed it a little bit perhaps from when you last saw it, because I had a dark blue piece right in all of these fillers, and I decided that it stood out too much, and I didn't like that. So I took out those dark blue pieces and replaced it with a lighter colored square. And in those, I wrote in with my long arm stitching the year and the place. My thought when I was making this is that I wanted it to look more like a modern improv quilt, not necessarily a temperature quilt, but I wanted to use the temperatures as sort of a vehicle for creating that improv look. And so each day is represented by the high and the low temperatures. So if I started at the top, high and low, high and low, high and low. And each of those two pieces together makes a 2.5 by 6.5 inch rectangle. So that's the piecing on it. I pieced a column, and when I got 2 months together, I could piece those two together. And if you look back at some of either my Instagram or my earlier episodes, you could see progress on that. The other thing I wanted to show you about this that I thought was kind of fun and it helped me work towards one of my goals this year was that each row of this quilt going from side to side was done with a different quilting design. And that's where I sort of brought the weather images back in. So this first row is a pattern called Blowin' Wind, windy. And then the second row was a sun design where you can see the spikes of the sun peeking out here. And the next row was rain. And I really like how this one turned out, this diagonal rain that looks like it's blowing really hard on the diagonal. So I did several little rows of the raindrops. After that, I did, I did a swirly windy one. Oh, that's right. This one was clouds and this one was wind. Got turned around. So each row was a different theme. And then at the bottom, I did some snowflakes. So I think that's kind of fun. You have to look at it pretty closely to even tell that there are different designs through there. But I did it for me and I was glad to do it. So I chose this really wonderful bright citrusy color fabric for the backing. And there you can see the designs perhaps a little bit more. So there it is. There's my temperature quilt. I am really glad I did it. I've given some resources before for it. I can always put them back down in the description box again. It was a really fun thing to do. I was so surprised that I actually kept up with it and surprised that I actually achieved the goal of having it done before the end of January this year. Each step along the way, I was kind of afraid that I would let it sit or that somehow I wouldn't keep up with it. But I did, and so I'm really happy to be able to share it with you and to encourage you to try it if that interests you at all. There are so many different ideas for how to do these blocks, and my suggestion is still to keep this unit, keep this block very, very simple so that it is easier to keep up with it. All the fabrics were from my stash, so I didn't have to buy anything for it, not even the backing. I only ran out of one fabric, and it was the last 2 days in December. It's when I ran out of the one fabric. But I made a substitution. And if I didn't tell you about it, you probably would never even have noticed or seen that there was any kind of a substitution in it. So let me know in the comments if it's something that you think you'll try. I'd be interested to hear if you think you're going to try it. It's not too late. I think you could still probably catch up with it. Or you can choose your own start date. It does not have to start on January 1st. It could start on your birthday and go from one birthday to the next. It could start on some other day that's very special to you. So there's nothing that says that you have to do it for a year or that it has to be started at any particular time. Thanks for letting me share that with you one more time. And I will then move on to the next thing that I want to show you. So during that intermission, I put Sonia's quilt back up behind me because I love it so much and it's so pretty. So that is the one that you'll get to look at for the next little while behind me. So the next thing I was going to go through are some of my whips and bring out some of the other things that I've been working on and trying to keep up with. The first one is the Bonnie Hunter Mystery, And this is the final reveal. This is what it looks like. If you go on to her blog, those clues are still out there. You still maybe have another week to download all that information before she takes it off of the website. And what I wanted you to notice in that are the border units. So I have one set of blocks done, but while I've been stitching other things, I have been sewing all of these units together, these flying geese units together into pairs. And eventually, after I get all the pairs sewn, I will be sewing them into borders. And she tells you how many units you need, of course, to go across the top and the bottom. So I will get those done because I can use those as leader enders while I'm sewing other things. And that's why I worked on that part, because that was really easy for me to keep track of while I was sewing and working on these other projects. So I am not in any hurry to work on the mystery quilt. I still have these pointy blocks to do and the borders, and it'll probably take me another month or two to get that together, and that's fine. I don't have any timetable for that anymore now that it's been revealed. So, but what I did want to show you, the thing that I had been working on for the last month or so, I had this tub that was completely chock-a-block full of flannels with a lot of kid flannels in them, or cute kid prints. And I still have to make the backings, and hopefully I have enough to make at least one backing out of all of this. But this is what's left from the 2 quilts that I made. So I may have mentioned before that I have a little sewing group that I sew with once a month. Hi Lorraine, hi Jane, hi Karen, hi Cindy, if you're all watching, Cheryl. And so if you're, I sew with those gals once a month, and in November I cut everything I needed for these 2 quilts. The first one I showed you last time, and it was the Potato Chip Quilt. So I made great big potato chip, great big blocks, and made this really nice little lap size quilt. And then when I finished cutting those, that was 5-inch strips for those. And then this one was made with 10-inch squares. So since I was cutting from yardage, each piece I pulled out, I tried to see how many 10-inch squares I could get from it, whether it was a fat quarter or full width of fabric. And I cut as much as I could right down to the ends. And so this is all I have left of a couple of those fabrics, just a very little bit. And so this is the second one that I made from all of those fabrics. And I don't have them quilted or backed yet. That's the next step to do on those. Now this one is called, the pattern is called Double Slice, and it was a free tutorial from Missouri Star Quilt Company. But since I was using yardage, I thought I would share some of the hacks that you could do if you were also using yardage instead of a layer cake. So for the size that I made, if you're going to cut for 42 blocks, because 42 blocks is what's in a layer cake, then you would need 84 pieces of each of the 2 pieces that are in the quilt. The larger piece is a 5-inch by 6.5-inch piece, and the smaller is a 5 by 3.5-inch piece. So when I was cutting everything up, I could cut, if I had to make best use of my fabric and could get 5-inch strips out of it, then I could get those extra squares. Let me show it to you again. Since it's a free pattern, I don't feel bad telling you about how to do it. So here is one block right here in the corner. There's a 3.5 by 5.5, another 3.5 by 5.5, and the two larger pieces are 5 by 6.5. So each block is sewn together with one of each size, and then all you do is rotate it from with a horizontal seam or a vertical seam, and you go across the row and turn those. So if you were cutting from yardage, you could do it very, very easily. And I can put that information down in the description box, because sometimes we make our own layer cakes and sometimes you don't have to start with a 10-inch square. I actually did on this. I cut all my 10-inch squares, got the 42 squares that I needed, and then I cut my 5-inch strips. But here's a funny thing. I'm going to see if I can find it. Here it is. So after I put this up on the wall, I found out that I was 2 blocks short. And like I said, this was the only scrap I had. And I'm trying to save these bigger chunks for the backing, so I didn't want to cut into the bigger chunks. I pieced my pieces. Can you tell? See this blue and white one? That was actually made with 3 pieces of fabric instead of 1. And I did it somewhere else too. And that let me continue to use up those little scraps without cutting into my bigger yardage. So those 2 projects I need to get the backings together for and get those quilted and bound. So I don't know that I'll have those done by the end of January. Maybe I'll have one of them done by next time. We'll see. We'll see. But this bin could be nearly empty by the time I finish that, which would be a great thing. A great, great thing. Next on my works in progress is this cute little table topper. I continue to hand quilt this. I got a little bit more of it done yesterday when I was visiting my friend Carol. In case you also follow, and you should follow, 2 tall stitchers, Carol and her daughter Jen. Carol tripped and fell and banged herself up really badly, and so I went over and spent a little time with her yesterday. She's gonna be fine, but she sure looks a mess. And Carol, I hope you keep recovering, and I know it's driving you crazy not to be able to do your cross stitch while you're kind of taking it easy, at least not yet. But I'll bet by the time this video comes out, I bet you'll be doing a whole lot better than you were when I saw you the other day. So send good wishes to Carol if you can pop over there and give them some support. Anyway, I got a little bit more of this done. I would love to have this one done by the end of January. You'll find out next time if I did that or not. It's pretty close, pretty close. I just have a couple more sections to do. That would also suit one of my goals, to continually have a hand stitching project to work on this year. I just want to, there are several hand projects that I have that I want to get to, that I've been either putting off or neglecting, not getting around to it. And so I really want to try to get to finishing some of these little projects. So that is another work in progress. And then I have my New Year's Day start. So I am making this quilt. I have this one all quilted. I have my binding picked out. but I haven't put the binding on yet. So this one is really close. Started on January 1st. I'll show you the back so that you can see part of the quilting because I think it's beautiful. Just beautiful. Here's another pieced backing that I did. And doing a pieced backing is a really great tip for trying to control your influx of scraps. If you don't want more scraps, you need to use them as you get them. And here's the front. And the back is pieced. And my tip for you on that is if you are looking to use up your fabric and not add scraps to your fabric pile, that you use it on the back. So these 3 fabrics are now almost completely gone from my stash. This blue one, the reason I pieced the backing was because there wasn't enough of this blue one in itself to do the backing. So I made it work. And let's see if I can hold this up a little bit better. I decided to divide this blue fabric into 2 and offset them. And then I had the corners to fill in, and I cut 3 strips and pieced those together and made my backing. So I didn't need to buy a backing. I used what was left over and put it on the back. So I have much less to put back into my stash. So I'm really happy with this one. And that is probably the only blue one that I'm going to finish in January. Those are my whips, but not my new starts. I have some more to show you. So there are a couple of things that I really made very little progress on. One of them is my quilt called Offset. And I had been showing you these little pieces. I needed 700 something of these little pieces, these rectangles and squares. And now I have started assembling these into columns. And you have a little 1.5 by 2.5 inch print and a 2.5 inch square of a neutral. I have a few more of each of these cut so I can continue to piece those, but I wanted to see what it was going to look like. I wanted to get a little glimpse as to what it would look like when I started sewing some of these pieces together. So I just started the other day making some columns, so I wanted to show you because that's where it gets a little more exciting. Rather than just showing you the units, that I can show you a little bit more progress in this one. So I think I'm going to be really happy with it. I think it's going to be really cool. And it does use small pieces, so it is helping me get through some of my little pieces of stash. The reason I'm not working on that one so much is because I was working on the mystery quilt, and I was paying more attention to that than to this other one. So, but I will get back to that one because I like it. The other one that's on pause is my stash buster from last year. I'm still waiting for that backing fabric to come, and I ordered some black minky for it. So I'll just quickly show you this. I had also said last time, I said they do a new stash buster block every year. So this was from 2025. My goal had been to finish it by the end of January, but I can't do it if I don't have the backing fabric yet. So this one I did decide that I wanted to buy a backing, and that's okay too. So there's the top. in another couple of weeks, I should have that one all quilted and bound. So it's just on a little bit of a pause while I wait. Some old business to talk with you about. The Stash Buster is a little bit of old business too, because you've seen that before. But I had shown the potato chip block, the big potato chip block. In a previous episode, I had posted my smaller size potato chip block. And Amy reminded me in the comments about this book that is all about rectangles. And it is basically, it came out in early 2000s by Judy Turner and Margaret Rolfe. It's still available on secondhand resellers. And if you're interested in the potato chip block, the smaller size one, they have fabulous array of designs that you can make with it. So I'll just hold that up. So the first half of this book has dozens of different designs and layouts for those rectangles. And then it also has a gallery and some other ideas as to what people did with those bricks. So if you're interested in that, if you like to hang on to books, I would really recommend this one. And Amy, I'm so glad that you reminded me about it. I'm so happy when you all can chime in on those comments and tell us about those kinds of things. So I pulled out my copy, and I'm going to certainly pick out something from there as I am cutting up my scraps for more of those rectangles. So, other old business. So I asked you last time about your goals and if you had a lot of quilt tops that were not quilted. And because I've seen pictures on different social media of people that have 40 or more on quilt tops, and I just wondered what happened. So my question was, are you stuck? And if so, what's stopping you, and how can we get you unstuck? And are you those things that you want to finish, or are you happy with it just the way it is? Either way is fine. I was just curious. I was just asking. So again, Amy had said, she said one of her tops was stuck in the fabric acquisition stage. So I thought that was a really interesting answer, and I hadn't thought of it that way before, that you may be waiting for something to happen fabric-wise before you can go through with finishing your project. And I have more than a couple of very old UFOs. And JC suggested that I pull one of them out and work on it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes for a couple of days, at least one day, but more likely a couple of days, to see how I feel about it and see if it's something that I want to continue working on or not. And I really like that suggestion. And I don't think I'll be pulling out anything else to work on in January, but for February, I think I would like to do that. I think I would like to pull out, and I'll talk some more about my my older UFOs in a minute, but I think that's a suggestion that really might work for me, and so I wanted to pass that along as well. If you are struggling to finish something or have a quilt top that's hanging that's not getting completed to being a quilt, maybe it's something you can work on for that 15 or 30 minutes and see what your thoughts are after that. I also had talked about the Declutter Challenge last time. And at this point, the Declutter Challenge has ended, but all of the blog posts and YouTube videos are still up on her website and will be for a while. And the Facebook community is still very active, going strong. And I thought I would tell you one of my little takeaways from that. I've shown you before my list of projects, works in progress, and it goes on and on and on for 7 or 8 pages. Well, when I used a different metric, when I used Karen's metric for determining what was a UFO, then I took easily 50 of those projects off my list because I realized that a lot of those projects were really just ideas. I didn't have the fabric pulled for them. I hadn't bought anything for them. I didn't necessarily, I might have had the pattern in mind because of a picture that I had seen, a photograph of someone else's quilt top where I had said, "Ooh, I like that and I want to make it." And I would add it to my list when it really wasn't a UFO or a whip at all. It was just an idea. So I kind of felt a little bit better about my list of unfinished projects when I could quickly remove a third of them, and so that was pretty interesting to me. I also started working through some of my fabric shelves, and again using one of Karen's ideas that some of those fat quarter bundles did not need to stay as bundles. I had actually purchased them for the fabric because I thought the fabric was cute and I could see using it in some of the kids' quilts that I was doing. So I ended up taking apart some of those fat quarter bundles and just dispersing those fabrics, folding them the way I fold them, and putting those into the color bins that they belong in. And that gave me more room on my shelf so I could tidy things up and reorganize it. So a couple of really good tips from doing that declutter challenge. I have a long way to go to really tidy up and pull out the fabrics that I don't think I'll be using anymore. I do have a bin set aside for some of those things that I will probably rehome, find new homes for, declutter, but I'll be doing that from time to time over the next month or two. So if you are interested in the declutter challenge, that's about where I am with that one, and it's still there and you can still check it out. So, ready to see another quilt? So I have a new start, another one. I started one on January 1st, and now this one I just started on January 16th, and this meets another one of two of my other goals. One of the goals was to participate in the Rainbow Scrap Challenge with Angela at sewscrappy.blogspot.com, I think it is. I'll put it in the notes. And the color of this month is blue. That's why I did Neptune. So here is my second start of the month using my scraps of blue. And the second goal that it is getting me to work on is that I wanted to make another Kawandi style piece. I have actually recorded a longer video on how I started this. So if you're curious about it, go look for one of my other videos. It's about 5 to 7 minutes long, and it tells you how I started it. But I will put in the description box who I learned this from, and so you can just click on the link and go and watch how she did it. But so this is my second start for January, and it's a Kawandi style, meaning it's a hand-stitched quilt where you work from the outside into the center. So let me hold this up for you. I started it with a 1 yard piece of backing fabric, this one. I liked it because it had a lot of colors in it. And my first round is going to be blues, kind of aqua-y, kind of lighter blues, definitely different blues than I used in my Neptune quilt. And I am about halfway around on my first row of stitching. I am using a light blue 12 weight thread to hand stitch. Can you see that right along the edge? And when I get all the way around, I will come in about a quarter of an inch and do another row of stitching all the way around, and I keep coming in another quarter of an inch all the way around. So the blue round will take me quite a while to do. Even if I change colors in February, or that the next round I do will be the color for February, it may be towards the end of February before I actually get to putting those next pieces on. I do think it will take me quite a while to get all the way around and get this one, get the blue sewn on. But it gets faster as you go into the middle. So this is another hand stitching project. And this one will be going on all year, kind of like my temperature quilt. So this one, as long as I'm making a little bit of progress on it, maybe every day, every other day, as long as I'm making progress on it, it'll get done. And I think it'll be really fun. And I kind of like the theme that I have going for it, where I'll change fabric scraps for every round. So that's a fun new start, and a little bit of slow stitching. I think I'm going to really enjoy always having some slow stitching to work on. So a couple of other sew-alongs I just thought I'd remind you of. The Declutter Challenge, the Rainbow Scrap Challenge, and then Emily Dennis of At Quilty Love. She has a sew-along going on for Valentine's. I haven't really even talked about Valentine's yet, have I? So she does an annual sew-along with a new pattern, and if you want to do the pattern that she is providing, it is a for purchase pattern, but there is a pretty good sized group of people doing her Valentine's sew-along. And then Kathleen Tracy at countrylanequilts.com, she started a free mini quilt mystery. Kathleen uses reproduction colors, fabrics, and it's just darling. And so it started out with, let's see, did I get that? Here. So this is the first clue that you get from her website or from her Facebook group, and you're making little 4 patches, and she tells you how big and how many and all like that. So that's a cute little sew-along. And when I say mini, it's not only are the pieces smaller, but the project is small as well. So you might not have heard of those. And if you have heard of other ones and you want to put them into the comments so that everybody can stay up to date on all those fun things going on, please do. Please add your comments and let us know which ones you're participating in. All right, so the next thing is, I've told you I was trying not to purchase a lot, but I saw something in quilt recipes and I wanted to try it, so I ordered it. And it's a beautiful book, a really beautiful book, and I did get it on sale. The one that I saw is called This Way, Not That. And let's see, I don't want to, this is copyrighted material, so I don't want to give you too much. So that is the quilt that I wanted to do. And I made a couple of test blocks, but I have to say it's not doing anything for me. So but what I wanted to accomplish is I wanted to size it so that I could use 5-inch squares in the center. So I took a couple of my 5-inch squares and a charm pack that I was hoping to use and made these test blocks. And this combination, I thought I would like kind of the blue and the gold, but it's not not doing it for me. So back to the drawing board on that, and I'll see if I can figure out something else that I might like a little better. But there are some other wonderful patterns in there, so we'll see what happens with that purchase. If that was, I get myself into more trouble sometimes purchasing stuff. Anyway, one bit of happy mail that I wanted to share with you. This is from my cousin Dee Dee, and she lives in Poland, and she sent me this gorgeous, I love this postcard. You know I love the mountains, and it shows where she lives in Poland. And I got to see her or kind of be in touch with her this past summer. And she had gotten a couple of the quilts that I had brought for my cousins to share. And so she sent me this really wonderful little note and postcard of where she lives. Now I want to go to Poland and I want to go see her. So that was a really fun happy mail. And let's see what's next. The February color of the month should be out by the time you're watching this. So if you want to see what color was pulled, maybe I can get it posted on my YouTube channel, and we'll see what color we're working with next time. I'm also going to try to do that 15 to 30 minutes a couple of times on a really old UFO to determine whether or not I want to keep it or donate it or repurpose it or do something else with it. So that is coming up in February. One more little thing for my stats report. I had said I had taken like 50 projects that were just ideas off of my WIP list. So then I had to look a little bit more closely at what my WIPs actually were, like what was the status of them, because that is one of the things that I keep track of. So I just thought I would share that. So I have 3 quilts that are ready to assemble, 3 that need backing, and you've seen them today, and 1 that needs binding, and you saw that one today. I have 1 that needs borders, and I need 1 that needs an alternate block fabric shown, and then I have a bunch that I need to make more blocks. So I thought each time I filmed, I would show you, dig out one of my WIPs and let you see some of the projects that have been sitting idle for a while, and maybe it will get me to move on them also, maybe. So here's one. This is called Chain Reaction. And what you do, as far as I have gotten, is that I have, back in 2019, I finished making all 420 16 patches. A few little extra pieces. So all of these 16 patches all need to go into this chain reaction quilt. And yeah, that's a pile of blocks just having sat for, what is that, 7 years? My goodness. And what I need to do is I need to pull out my solids so that I can do these smaller triangles, and I need to pull out my cave prints because I think I want more cave prints, and cut those up for these hexagons that go in the middle. I know they look like hexagons. I don't know if you cut them as hexagons or not. I haven't read that far, so I guess I need to read again. It's been a little while, so I need to read and figure this out again. But when I stopped, I think I just didn't get around to pulling those other fabrics and cutting those other pieces. And I just moved on to something else. But I think it'd be really nice to do something with all of these 16 patches, because that's a lot of blocks made to just have them sitting. And then here's the second one I thought I would show you today. And this one is, well, it's a combination. Maybe not quite as old. The center of it is. So, I had made this little mini Lone Star years and years ago. I don't think I have a date for it. And I decided that I wanted this to be the medallion, a center medallion for a quilt that didn't have to be any specific size. Let's see, do I have a photograph? Yeah. So I found this photograph in Quilt Mania magazine, okay? And this is sort of the layout that I was thinking of. So I have my center, and then I have a whole bunch of these snowball blocks made. I should have enough for the whole thing. So I guess I need to just start putting those into groups, into rows, so that I can attach them and figure out how I want to make those units. I will probably do it as a square, a rectangle, a square, and so all of those together, like 4 rows by however the size I need, and make these into different units, and the corners would be different units. And then I need to have a fabulous border for it, and that would be that. So it was only in 2024 when I made all the snowball blocks. So that has been sitting for about 2 years, almost 2 years, waiting for me to work on that. Actually, it was November of 2024 when I finished making all those snowballs. So this has sat for just over a year, waiting for me to take it to the next step. So maybe that's what I need to do during that 15 to 30 minutes a day, is to make some progress, pick one of these and make some progress on it. But here's where it gets really interesting. So I have probably, 13, 20 makes 33. I have about 33 works in progress where there's some blocks made, anywhere from 1 block up to like 40 blocks made. And so I will need to keep going through those and seeing which one of those may make the cut. But some of those I want to use for my orphan quilts, and that's why making an orphan quilt was so important to me this year. So I have 8 of those projects that I have already decided that I don't want to make any more of it. It was interesting to try and make the sample for it, but I am not going to do any more with it. So those I want to have go into my orphan quilt. And then I have, would you like to guess how many kits I have? I have 41 kits that I have not cracked open. And that's why I was thinking, oh, this should be the year of the kit. But it's going to be a blend of all kinds of things. So my goal is to keep emptying those bins out one by one by one by one. And so if I get this little one done, that frees up one little tote. And if I get those flannel quilts done, that's another one little tote, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to keep trying to dig myself out of this hole. Phew. So that's the story. I also have planned to do a short segment on talking about scraps, and that will be coming out as one of my Wednesday videos instead of trying to incorporate it into one of my regular episodes. I'm going to make it a standalone little video that it will be easier for you to find and watch. So I will have that coming out probably in the next week or two because I'm working on it now. And that is more than enough for me to try to work on and handle over the next little while. So, with that, I want to remind you to subscribe. And I also, if you're having fun, if you like looking at all these projects, I would love it for you to subscribe. I also have a members option. I am doing live streams every other Saturday morning from 10 to noon Eastern Standard Time. And I will try to post a reminder on that. The next one, I'm going to have to check my February schedule. I think it's on February 4th, and then 2 weeks following that. So come and join me on YouTube live stream. You do not need to be a member to do that, but if you would like to join and be a member, that would be awesome. I would love to have your support, and that would tell me that you're enjoying what you're seeing. And I want to say a thank you to some of the new subscribers that I've gotten over the last few days. So thank you, Jen, Jennifer, Helen, Lucy, Vicky, Sharon, Joanna, Second Act Quilts, Marty, Barbara Ann, Inga, and Terry. Thanks so much for being a part of this community. I hope you come back next time. And if you have any questions, you could always join me on the live stream or leave a comment below. I will read all your comments and I will answer them as often and as quickly as possible. So, thanks for being here again and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye from the Everyday Sewist.